guys, and welcome back to another video. I'm Shah and this is Thoroughly Enjoyed Books. Today I'm talking to you about rereading. I recently did a discussion video on my channel which I'll leave links to up here and down below, where you can go and check out me talking about the reasons that I personally like to reread books. And there are many different reasons why, whether it's to do with the enjoyment factor, because I'm studying them, because I want to go over a specific theme again, or I just am interested in how I'd receive that book now. I have got 5 books to talk about with you today that I plan on rereading at some time in the nearish future. When I say nearish, I mean hopefully within the next year, but some of these depend on when I'll be able to actually go home and see my family, because some of the books are up there. I have got a book here that I need to reread because I'm studying it, a book that I want to reread for enjoyment, 2 books that I'm reading particularly for a series that I'm doing on my YouTube channel, and then the final one will be a book that I just haven't reread for an extremely long time and want to therefore reread it. Let's start off with the book that I plan on reading purely for fun, and that is The Book Thief by Marcus Zusak. Now, I'm actually going to be buddy reading this with Charlotte from rereads. I'll leave a link to her channel down below, but she's fantastic. She started her channel during lockdown a couple of months ago. I think she started at end of May. If you enjoy my channel and the kind of things that I like, you will love her channel. She reads literary fiction, she reads classics, she's got guides to getting into classics, and then she also reads a little bit of pretty much everything else as well. Her channel is fantastic. I watched about 4 hours of it yesterday while I was working from home. So that's it, it's how amazing her channel is. So she recently did a video talking about books she wanted to reread, and she mentioned The Book Thief, and the reason she wants to reread this is exactly the same reason I want to reread it. And she said it was because this has always been one of her favourite books. She told people it was her favourite book, but she hadn't reread it. I used to say this was my favourite book, but I have never reread it, and I'm scared to reread it in case I don't like it. So me and Charlotte have said we are going to read this together so that we can console each other through it, regardless of whether we like it again or not. You need consoled going through this book. I will be reading this one in September, so if you're interested in my thoughts and Charlotte's thoughts, I'll leave links down below. You can go and follow us both on Twitter, because I'm sure we'll be discussing our thoughts on this. If you didn't know, this is a book that is told from the point of view of death, and it is about a young girl named Liesel who steals a book as a young girl in the war while books are being burned, and it becomes a habit where she steals books to read. At some point, the family she is living with hide a Jew in their basement, and they teach each other a lot about life and reading. So it was a beautiful book when I read it. A lot of people on BookTube don't like it, so that's probably why I'm scared to reread it, but this is one I will be rereading soon. And look at the size of my copy. The next book I have to show you is one I plan on rereading for university, because as you know, I'm doing my masters, and this year I'll be doing my dissertation on Sarah Waters, and I need to reread Tipping the Velvet by Sarah Waters. I read this about 3 years ago on a train, and I don't actually know if I ever finished it. That's a confession. You know when people say, have you ever lied about reading a book? I have read at least half of this, and I cannot remember if I actually finished it or not, and I'm tempted to go with I didn't finish it. But I adore Sarah Waters. I've since read Fingersmith and Affinity by Sarah Waters, and I plan on studying it further at university, like I've already mentioned. This is about a young girl called Nan who meets a cross-dressing entertainer at a theatre and becomes fascinated with the world of theatre and performance, and also with the performer herself. It is about sexuality and gender and the exploration and performance of those things. I remember loving this book. I am, like I said, studying it further and need to reread it to just remember the beautiful narrative of this book. The next book I have to reread is Wishful Drinking by Carrie Fisher. I actually intend to reread all of Carrie Fisher's memoirs. So there is this Wishful Thinking, there is Shockaholic, and then there is The Princess Diarist. This one and Shockaholic in particular look at her bipolar disorder, and as you're aware, I live with bipolar disorder, and Carrie Fisher has been a huge inspiration to me. I was heartbroken when she passed away. I have a tattoo of her on my arm as Princess Leia. She just means a lot to me, and particularly because of her experience with bipolar disorder, it really helped me come to terms with my own bipolar. You might know that I have a series on my channel called Books About Bipolar, where I discuss books that feature bipolar and talk about the representation within them. Was it good? Was it bad? How I felt about it as somebody who lives with bipolar. I am going to be refilming those videos because I'm not happy with them. There are significant things that I forgot to mention in those videos. So I am going to be privating them. I think they're already privated now. And I will be refilming them soon. So that is another reason I want to reread her books, because I feel like they need a reread before I do these videos. That's one of the things I wasn't happy about. I don't feel like they were as in-depth as they could have been because it had been a while since I'd read the books that I was talking about. So I plan on rereading this book. Also for that series, I plan on rereading The Silver Linings Playbook by Matthew Quick, which is another book about bipolar disorder, and it is another book that I want to reread before I do my books about bipolar video on it. Now, this was a book that scared me with my bipolar disorder. I read it around the time I got diagnosed with bipolar disorder, and I really loved it, and I love the film starring Jennifer Lawrence, but it does depict the messier side of bipolar disorder. And I've talked about in the past how I think it's really important that that messy side, that scary side, is discussed in books, and my opinions of representation of mental health in books, which I will do a video on at some point, where I talk about why I think it's important that we see the really low lows, the really high highs of bipolar disorder. I think that there is a lot of focus on recovery in books and showing that you can come out of things, whereas something like bipolar is cyclical. That's the whole idea of it. You go high, you go down, you go high, you go down, with periods of stability. And I want to discuss that more. I will be rereading The Silver Linings Playbook. What I love about this book is its main theme, as well as being bipolar, is triggers. Our main character is triggered by his wedding song. Whenever he hears that, he is reminded of catching his wife having an affair. And it's about dealing with those triggers, and it's about the therapy he goes through and learning to love again, but realising that loving again isn't going to cure his mental health. So it's a book I read a long time ago. Like I said, it was back when I first got diagnosed, which was about 6 years ago. I'm looking forward to the reread, but I'm scared of how I'll receive it. And then the last book that I want to talk about today that I want to reread is The Great Gatsby by F. Scott Fitzgerald. Now, I have got a few books on my bookshelf. I'll get them for you. I've got The Diamond as Big as the Ritz and Other Stories, and Tender is the Night and the Last Tycoon, both by F. Scott Fitzgerald, which I bought, it's coming up 8 years ago now. It could even be 9 years ago. I think I bought these in 2011 when I was studying The Great Gatsby for my A-level English literature. And what I love about The Great Gatsby is that every time I reread it, I get something new from it. So I read it the first time when I was 16 and I hated it, and then when I read it for school, I fell in love with it, and then I read it again for university and just loved it even more and wanted to talk about it to everyone who listened to me. But I haven't reread it since my first year of university. So what I want to do is go back, reread The Great Gatsby, and pick up these as well. I might actually pick these up before rereading The Great Gatsby. I'm not 100% sure yet. But these are things that I want to hurry up and get to because they've been on my shelf for years and I forget that they're there. So those are all books that I plan on rereading pretty soon. Let me know in the comments down below if you've read any of these, and if so, what did you think of them? And if you have reread any of them, I am exceptionally interested in what you thought of them, particularly The Book Thief, because that one I am scared to reread. What happens if I don't like it, guys? I'm so happy I'll be rereading that with Charlotte, so I have somebody that I can cry to if it all goes wrong. I hope you enjoyed this video. As usual, I'll leave my links to my Twitter and my Goodreads and all that good stuff down below. Go and follow me on there and come talk to me about books. And I can't wait to see you in another video very, very soon. Take care. Bye.